Well, Aaron and Chad, why don't we begin by your telling us a little bit about your two organizations. Aaron?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. So Virginia Beach City Public Schools is one of the largest school divisions in Virginia, but fourth largest school division down here with 67,000 students. We're on the southeast coast of Virginia, right there bordering the Atlantic Ocean and the Chesapeake Bay, and we are very proud of our diverse student body in our 86 schools and of our opportunities to serve an incredible dynamic community, not the least of which is our military community.
And Chad, tell us a bit about Naval Air Station Oceana.
So, thanks, Doug. Naval Air Station Oceana is the Navy's East Coast master jet base, and so we have over 300 F-18 aircraft here, which are strike fighter aircraft, and they are comprised of 15 squadrons that deploy on the aircraft carriers out of Norfolk and also from the West Coast. But Oceana is also, in general, 3 installations. So we have not only Oceana, which is the airfield, but I have Dam Neck Annex, which is located right on the beach, and it's basically a college campus. We put over 20,000 students a year through there, both Navy and Marine Corps, going to various schools. And then the third installation piece that I own is Naval Auxiliary Landing Field Fentress, which is an outlying field located in the city of Chesapeake, which is adjacent to Virginia Beach. And that's where all the pilots from here at Oceana go to practice their carrier landings before they go out to the ship.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Now, let's get to our topic today, which is the very unique partnership that the Virginia Beach schools and NAS Oceana have formed, which has resulted in some really innovative initiatives. Tell us a bit about how this got started. What's the backstory? Aaron, you want to take this?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things that's really important to understand about our school division in our city is the degree to which we are a military community. So as Chad mentioned, NAS Oceana itself and the Dam Neck Annex are located within the city of Virginia Beach. We have 2 other installations within Virginia Beach with the Joint Expeditionary Base both at Fort Story and Little Creek. And so we are, and of course next door we have the Norfolk Naval Station, which is the largest naval station in the world. So there's just a lot of military community here, and we serve a broad and dynamic population of military-connected students. So about a third of our students overall are military-connected, nearly 20,000 students here in Virginia Beach. And so obviously the partnership between our military installations and our school division is critical in terms of staying connected to our military families and making sure that we meet the needs, which in many cases are very unique needs of military children who are transitioning in and out with their parents, who are dealing with a lot of different issues associated with being a military child, things which are as seemingly simple as reading transcripts from one state to another, but then also as complex as dealing with deployments and loss of life and other really challenging issues. So so the partnerships that we seek to develop with our military partners really are built upon this notion of being the best possible of service to our military kids and to their families. And I'm sure Chad can then talk a little bit. He's probably got a great story about how, for example, one of our initiatives that we'll talk about today, which is our air show, came about.
Yeah, and how did you two guys get together on this? Chad, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so the way the command here works at Oceana is I was the executive officer for about 18 months, and then I've been the commanding officer here for now 4 or 5 months. So we call that a fleet up model where you're second in command and then you become the overall command. So when I came in is we call the prospective executive officer is you're the incoming XO and there's getting ready to be a change of command where the XO is going to become the commanding officer. So a little bit drawn out, but the commanding officer that was not directly my predecessor but one prior, he was working with our air show director, and our air show director works for the region here in Norfolk, so kind of works for all the installations that are around. And part of his job, his name is Corky Erie, part of his job is to work at Fleet Week in New York. So while he was up at Fleet Week in New York, he went on the USS Intrepid, which is a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier that's retired up there. And he saw they had a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math program on board that for the school systems within New York. And he thought, how can I take this concept and bring it to something that we do that's very unique, which is our air show. And so he kind of proposed to the commanding officer at the time that why don't we invite Virginia Beach schools, and we think that fifth graders is probably the perfect target audience because they're a little bit independent, and they're curious, and so they, have a little more independence than maybe the younger students, but they're still, moldable, maybe more so than some of the high school kids. So they got together and went over to Dr. Spence and proposed having some fifth grade students come out to Oceana for the air show on Friday as our practice air show that we do, and it's open. We usually do like special needs, wounded warriors, and that kind of thing. It's not open to the public on Friday, but it's open to DoD dependents and then those special groups. They thought that would be a perfect place to have the school system come in. So I think the initial thought was they were going to go talk to Dr. Spence in the schools and have a few of the classes come out. And to their surprise, when they went to Dr. Spence, pleasant surprise, he said, "I'm all in. I'd like to send them all." So, we kind of went, holy cow. And so I was the prospective executive officer at the time, and because it was just such a huge new program, running the installation is a very, obviously very busy job. So they asked me, as I'm kind of learning the job as the executive officer, hey, well, you've got this extra time, we'd like you to kind of kick this thing off. So that's really where Aaron and I first met. We had to roll up our sleeves and hey, this is a grand idea, bringing 5,000 kids out to the base, but logistically, how do you do that? And that's how we met.
Well, thank you. Now, tell us a bit about, you mentioned the air show and with the STEM theme, bringing the kids in. Tell us about a couple of other initiatives that your partnership has generated. Chad, why don't you take this?
So based on the relationship that we built from the air show, and I'd love to talk more about that because we can get really into the details on how we did that, but based on that, my staff here at Oceana built just a great rapport with Aaron's staff on the Virginia Beach school system. So we got really involved with their administrative staff and how we do these things. And a big part of the air show was the school safety piece. How do we keep these kids safe, getting them onto the air show? How's the transportation and all that work? And so based on some of the events that happened earlier this year, Aaron decided to hold a blue ribbon panel on school safety and security to see how we could make the schools even safer than they are. The school system here is fantastic and the schools are safe, but you can always do things better. And so there was kind of an interesting perspective, and I think it's very unique within the country, and I don't know that it's been done before, but as Aaron, and he can talk more details about it, put this blue ribbon panel on school safety and security together based on the relationship that we built from the air show, approached Oceana and asked us if we would participate because obviously we have security experts. We have to secure the base every day, and we have, everything else. So we have, maybe from a different perspective, we could take a look at some of the things that the school could do to do things better. So I think that was a really neat and kind of unique initiative.
Anything else you've launched?
Yeah, well, Doug, if it's okay, I'd like to just dive back into the air show a little bit and talk a little bit more about what that was.
Please do.
Because that was, so it wasn't just a function of bringing 5,000 kids to the air show. I mean, that's certainly a part of it, the opportunity. If the listeners don't know anything about a naval air show, one of the highlights of that is the opportunity to see the Blue Angels fly, which is the Navy's precision flight team. And so just having the kids who live here in our city, during the air show, a lot of times if you live in the city, you'll see the jets flying overhead, but it's not often that most of the kids would get the opportunity to go on to base during the air show. Although they have several 100,000 visitors during the weekend, our kids that we bring out there tell us, I've never been here. And so that's a pretty cool opportunity in and of itself. But beyond that, we were able to work with Chad's team and also with Debbie Patch, who is a regional school liaison officer, who really coordinates the effort to bring in both some of the Navy folks as well as our folks, as well as some of the business community and other folks like NASA to come together and create what we talk about as the world's largest outdoor STEM lab. And so if you were to show up on this Friday that Captain Vincelette's talking about, you would see all the way across the tarmac from one end to the other STEM laboratories that are set up for our kids. And these are we work all year long to create alignment between our STEM curriculum for fifth grade students and then what they're going to experience. And of course, this happens in September. So this is right at the beginning of the year. It's sort of this amazing kickoff to our science and STEM curriculum. So kids are coming out, and what they're experiencing is real-world applications of the things that they're going to be learning about, things like force and motion. And so they're seeing that not just with the planes themselves, but they're also seeing that we've got teams from the Naval ordnance units are out there talking about how robots work and how they use robots in the military. NASA comes out and brings out its Mars project van where kids are able to walk through and learn more about how NASA is thinking about sending humans to Mars. And then we have our own folks come out from our Advanced Technology Center, from many of our other clubs that are related to STEM across the division, and share with the fifth grade students the kinds of things that they can learn while they're in Virginia Beach schools. So it's really kind of a remarkable, unique, both curriculum-driven, but also in the field, resources-driven project that, again, we sort of describe as the world's largest outdoor STEM laboratory. And it's really very exciting.
And let me just throw in a quick question that occurs to me, Aaron. I'm assuming your board of education has been strongly supportive of what you've done?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're fortunate. Our board both recognizes that we're a military community and then is incredibly supportive of the partnerships that we have. And so, yeah, they have enthusiastically gotten behind this opportunity for our fifth grade students. And of course, that's important because we do mobilize our resources in addition to Oceana doing the same. So, it takes a total team. One of the things Chad sort of alluded to is first thing we had to figure out is how do you get 5,000 students onto the installation, and so we
I was wondering that
mobilizing. Yeah, so getting the buses rolling, and then having a plan for how the buses get there and park and let students off and get students back on and do all that safely. And it's been an amazing partnership, and we've been able to work through all of those details. And I think, Chad, you probably would agree. It's first year was a great learning experience, and last year I think we were all blown away by how seamless it was.
Right, yeah. So we can always do things better, but I think our plan initially to start was really good. And as Aaron talked about, our biggest concern the first year was how do we get all the kids on, and how do we make sure every single kid that came on gets back on the bus and goes back to the correct school. And that was kind of our focus, was the logistics of all of that. And then and we had, as Aaron said, lots of different displays, and Debbie Patch, he mentioned, has done a fantastic job. And now the word's kind of gotten out, and we have, we were out, with a tin cup asking for people to come do STEM displays, and now we have people calling us asking how they can come. So we've got NASA, the local power company, Dominion Virginia Power, Office of Naval Research. We have the shipyard that's here, local hospitals come, so it's just a fantastic thing. And I want to put it out there on the podcast. The air show here at Oceana is September 22nd and 23rd this year. So that Friday is kind of a closed day, and we have all, like I said, it's kind of closed to the school system and those kind of things we do. But Saturday and Sunday, the air show is open, and a lot of those STEM displays stay open over the weekend. We ask them to come for Friday, but also to stay open because a lot of the kids go home and they have either younger brothers and sisters or older brothers and sisters, and they'll tell mom and dad, hey, I had this fantastic day at the air show, and we had these cool STEM things, and I'd like to show you the robot. And so those things stay open on the weekend, and so they can bring their siblings or their friends and all that. But if you have listeners that want to come out to the air show, it's free and open to the public. They can kind of come see how we do it and how the STEM works out.
Well, great. Thanks, gentlemen. Now, let's turn to impacts, benefits. What do the two of you see as the major outcomes of these initiatives? What have the practical impacts been?
Well,
Take this?
yeah, I mean, let me speak to both of them that we've mentioned so far. Obviously, I think the fifth grade STEM collaboration has really been positive in terms of, I think it's every educator's goal to help make authentic connections to the learning and to help students never have to ask that question, why am I learning this? And so we've seen kind of an immediate impact in terms of students being excited about, engaged in, interested in STEM learning. And, really it's something that we start in kindergarten, but when they get to this fifth grade field trip, they're sort of saying, oh, I see how this is working and this is so exciting. And then they get back and they're energized for the year. I think importantly, relative to the Blue Ribbon Panel on Safety and Security, I think we'll see both short and long-term impact. It was a real pleasure to have the team from NAS Oceana on the committee with us. As Chad mentioned, they bring a different perspective, and we're able to help us make a set of recommendations, which ultimately ended up being 11 recommendations with a number of specific strategies under each of those to our school board. And allow our school board to help make some governing decisions about some things that we need to do, both from a fiscal standpoint in terms of positional alignment and capital improvement, and then also from a policy and procedural standpoint. And our school board was very receptive to those recommendations, and I think as we move forward processing that and developing a tight timeline and plan for implementation, I think the impact is going to be our schools are going to be even safer tomorrow than they are today, and that that is a precious gift. So
That certainly is. Chad, you'd like to speak to this?
So as Aaron mentioned, this is Virginia Beach really is a military town, and 30% of the school's students are affiliated with military. They're connected somehow, whether parents or whatever, with the military. So I think it's kind of showing the community here we have Oceana. It's a chance for us to, open the doors and have the families come in. But so first and foremost for us, the partnership that we built is really a community outreach project. So the Navy is a good neighbor to the residents of Virginia Beach. And that continues to build, on a great relationship we already have with Virginia Beach. So I think the relationship between the Navy and the city itself and the school system, because of the STEM project and the Blue Ribbon project, has gotten even stronger. And really, second, our intent, and I think the benefit of this is the payoff to inspire students to study fields in STEM. So there may be some kids out there that hadn't even thought about it, or maybe I don't like math, but now that I see how it's applied and these jets are really cool and these robots I got to play with, that's amazing. And yes, I have to do math to do these. Maybe it'll inspire those kids to go to higher education in STEM fields, which in general, I think will help the overall nation, because that's the way the economy is going, is to these high-tech fields. So if we can inspire kids to go into higher education, I think that's a huge benefit for this.
Well, hearing you fellows talk, I realized that would have been great for me many years ago with my math anxiety to have spent a day at the air show with you. But alas, my time has passed. But this is a very impressive example you've described of partnership building, two organizations creatively collaborating. What do you see coming down the pike? What do you see as next initiatives or directions this partnership might take? Chad?
Yeah, I will tell you that the STEM thing kind of came out of the blue, and so I don't know of any specific partnerships that we're looking at. I just know that the relationship that we have built with the city of Virginia Beach, and especially the school system, opens us up to a world of opportunity. So we'll just kind of see what happens. I don't know if Aaron's got any bright ideas we haven't talked about yet.
Well, we're always coming up with new ways to work. I think one of the important things to point out, Doug, is that these partnerships are strong and ongoing. In fact, we have, and so like most school districts, we document our partnerships in various ways to be able to talk about them. And I will tell you, we have more than 87 documented military partnerships throughout Virginia Beach.
87.
Yeah, and so,
Whoa.
you know, and those are all different commands working with different schools. So at NAS Oceana, it's not one command, it's a group of commands, and Chad could certainly talk about the structure, but, you know, we have 87 different partnerships throughout the school division, and they take on all kinds of different kind of faces and projects. And so, you know, we've got volunteers in our buildings. We've got a group of sailors who come over from Dam Neck every morning to one of our schools and greet kids as they get off the bus. We've got folks who are guest speakers, folks who work with our robotics clubs and our cybersecurity clubs. And so we're constantly evolving in terms of how we build and create those partnerships. I think some of the real opportunities for us as we continue to grow, for example, we have through the Department of Defense military family life counselors, and so these are mental health clinicians who work in our buildings, and that group, we have 27 of those in our buildings right now, and they work, you know, specifically with the students that we're talking about to deal with some of those life issues, you know, those transition issues and some of those other things that we talked about. But they really help us and collaborate with our school counselors with monthly trainings, for example, to really think about, okay, how can we be better and stronger in terms of supporting our military community. So those are the kinds of evolving partnerships that I see us continue to get better at and work side by side with folks like Chad and his team. But all that said, Chad, I'm sure we'll get another bright idea for a collaboration in the future.
Well, it sounds like you've actually developed a model for how to build these kinds of partnerships that people are going to, around the country, are going to be very interested in. In fact, I think we've almost certainly got a follow-up podcast in the offing. We'll have to talk about that so we can get into some of the other initiatives going on. Well, I know you gentlemen are very busy, and I really greatly appreciate you taking the time to share what you've been doing in your partnership. I wish you well, and thank you very much.